I want to show you, I want to ask these questions of you, and I'm really interested through the question bar what your take is on answering these questions. Do you design in materials and have them value engineered? Has your visibility to terracotta changed maybe a little bit from this? Curious about what your perception on the cost. Curious, obviously, if this is any new stuff. And also, have we positioned terracotta to enhance your design freedom? I just want to tell a story about item number one. So terracotta was designed into a very large project in the West End of Toronto, and cladding contractor was getting numbers from me, and I was contributing to that. And there were meetings between the architect and the owner and the subcontractor. I suppose the GC would have been there. And it sort of just came out in the meeting that they needed to take the terracotta off and value engineer it to aluminum. And that was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. They didn't really have the prices of designing in the two systems. According to the subcontractor, they just intuitively felt that terracotta was too expensive for the project versus aluminum. And I have no idea whether that actually came out true. The real aspect of designing this in is to do the value engineering up front, because if we can lay out the panels, the design freedom on the length gives us exactly the length that are needed for the project. But there is an optimal size for installation, and I typically find that in the 400 mil by 1.2 mil meters, and that's a nice size for cladding contractors to handle and put on the wall. There are panels that are a lot longer, and when you start calculating the weight of some of those panels, although you might like the aesthetic at the end, the time covering it, installing it is absolutely crazy. And I'll go to this a little video of some projects, and then we'll let you watch that as I review some of the questions. So please throw some questions out. Is the framing attachment to be provided by Argeton? Does the warranty cover the attachment? So I'm actually going to stop the video, and I want to go back to that. I think that's a really good question. Let's go back to even just this vertical thing. So the Argeton piece is this vertical bar and the clips and the tiles. Very, very simple. And the little trim piece between them. The subassembly, which is showing you these T-bars and clips, that can be anything. So as I mentioned, we could attach this to a piece of concrete, a piece of wood, or we could build out a passive facade. Warranty, Chris, do you want to comment on about warranty?
Absolutely, yeah, that's a very good question. The metal component is engineered. That's an engineered assembly, and we work with several engineering firms. So there's no warranty for a piece of aluminum, if you will, but that is an engineered assembly. So that is an important feature. Where your warranty is needed is in the cladding itself, so the tile, right? So you want confidence in the tile that that clay will hold up, and that's where your warranty lays. So there is no warranty for the aluminum subsystem, which can vary as well. We're not the only subsystem out there. So I hope that helps you understand.
I'll go down to the questions. A lot of them are, maybe you could help out here. What is the weight range per square foot of panel, just the terracotta?
It's 8 pounds a square foot.
So that's what leads to the conversation of how big a panel that makes sense on a wall. So if you have too small a piece of facade, then you're going to have a lot of subsystem. If you have too large a panel, then the cladding contractor is they're gonna have to handle very large things, which is gonna slow them down. Does the printed face fade or change on the exterior? I think you're gonna say no, but Chris, you want to comment on that?
No, right. That's fired. So that color or printing, if you will, is applied prior to firing. So that is a lifetime.
And the next one is regarding scale and cost. 600 square feet of fascia. It really would just affect shipping. Our price on the actual product doesn't change, right?
Well, 600 square feet of
Yeah.
fascia. Yeah, that's definitely that's a small order. So if you recall, go back to that video we saw earlier. And so to get the automated factory up and running requires enough clay to produce 2,500 square feet of material. Okay, and most factories are like this, right? And that's where you start to find the sweet spot of pricing is you want to maximize everything from A to Z in the production. So you want a very simple clay that comes out adjacent to the factory. You want, in a perfect world, at least 2,500 square feet of material. Sure, we've gotten much better at supplying smaller jobs because the market demands it, but you will pay a premium.
Um, I'll tell you a story, but it says in horizontal installation, if bottom section gets damaged, how easy is to replace? Oh, this is the progressive question. You want to answer that?
Yeah, it's another very good question. And yeah, that can happen, of course, equipment, you guys, snow blowers, that sort of stuff, and crack tiles. So if that happens, yeah, you actually just break the tile out. So the only removable tile in these systems is typically the top tile up at the parapet condition or at a deflection joint. So that tile will be removable. So or you have to take it down all the tile in the stack, where you break that tile, you shave off an eighth of an inch or a couple millimeters, and the tile will go back into the existing clip system. So it's
pretty simple.
easily, yeah, very easily accomplished.
Yeah. I think the other thing is how often you're going to have a breakage. I was designing and it got constructed, a nice terracotta facade on a grocery store out in the West End. Pretty high-end place. Beautiful, beautiful job. And at first time, the design included having the tile go right down to the sidewalk. And I was able to convince the architect to design in a little bit of landscaping right there, because it doesn't make sense really to go buy some really cool cladding and then have somebody driving shopping carts into it. On an infrastructure project, you'd be putting in more structure behind it and still setting up a way that people aren't running into it all the time. On the corners, you can reinforce the corners with trims. I went and visited, my son is at Smith down at Kingston, and in the main area where students gather, they have terracotta on the columns on the interior. And a trim piece wasn't put in on the corners. So right at the height where the floor cleaning equipment would be, so about a foot and a half up off the ground, the corners are all broken off. And it's just a damn shame because the building was designed in a great way because it's got old building and new building, and this touch on masonry related to the old brick was really good idea. But that detail, it's not a good detail to have equipment bashing into the corners of things when you've designed it right. So I think a little good design is it goes a long way. And then yes, an eighth of an inch, getting it to get a panel out isn't such a big deal, but you really want to design in things in that kind of way too. Uh, uh, how do costs compare to a thin brick precast panel with spray foam steel stud and drywall interior for unglazed tile for a panel that would be 1.5 meters wide by 3 meters high. Well, this is really an apples and oranges thing. So if you're designing in a steel stud wall and you want to have a little bit better insulation, you could do spray foam between the studs on the inside. You could have a subsystem with more insulation if you wanted, or you just do something simple. Precast isn't thermally broken, so you could do a very simple, narrow facade, and then supply and install of the terracotta would most likely be very, very straightforward. And I don't know, I'm guessing less than 40, but if precast, if you wanted the precast with a brick, you're not getting a thermally broken facade. You might be getting the brick in the clay or in the the brick in the precast, but it's going to look completely different than what a terracotta wall looks like. And the terracotta wall is going to look a whole lot more modern, and you won't have those seams that go on in the precast with a brick. When you look up at a wall that's got precast and brick, it kind of intuitively doesn't make any sense because there's these seams between the precast panels. It's interesting. I am getting brought in general, to more and more questions about, hey, could I use precast versus something else? And I'm finding that very intriguing. And I don't know all the reasons. It's kind of like my questions on aluminum. I don't know all the reasons why this is occurring. I'm very wide open to what you are encountering out there. So that's been my question on precast. I'm happy to answer a follow-up there if you feel like you didn't quite hear or you didn't quite understand, or I wasn't clear. I think the terracotta maintenance is less than other material. Yes, the panels itself, cleaning it is not going to be an issue. If I've been involved with infrastructure projects, that then glazing the tile makes more sense. It's not really going to be absorbing stains anyways. And with a ventilated facade, we're not talking about epoxy, or sorry, joints that get dirty on closed face sealed systems. So there's, when you start comparing it to metal panel or aluminum, which oftentimes maybe people think about, is the long range aesthetics of a type of a rain screen in that particular tile makes a lot of sense. I think that there is a detailing aspect to design it for cleanliness, though, because I think if you're going to be an area that you're really worried about that, right now we're designing in terracotta into the Ontario line, and it's likely going to have the natural tile with a clear glazing on it. So they're going to get a nice combination of that natural look, but the glazing, that means that they're not going to be worried about anything, 30 years from now. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to come at that question, very extreme cleaning situations and very normal projects. Can you color match the brick tone? You want to take that one, Chris?
Color match a brick tone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, if we're trying to color match a brick, an adjacent brick building, I believe it's what the reference is. Yes, no problem with that. Absolutely. Yep. We would either give us a high resolution image or a physical sample of the brick, and yeah, we can match it. In fact, this picture sort of shows, right? This is the brick next to terracotta. And if you needed to match all of the pattern of the brick, so the lights, the darks, everything, we could do that as well. In fact, that engobing process can be automated so that you can do a sort of an overspray, if you will, random spray onto the terracotta to achieve that. Or you could, in fact, create a different colored terracotta similar to the brick.
It's 1 o'clock. We're going to keep going on questions. I respect your time, so I wanted to tell you that it's, that hour, but we'll hang in here, and we got a number of good questions to keep going. And thank you so much for attending. I've already added the presentation to the handouts of this, and they'll be on my website within an hour. I think what I'm going to do is re-record the presentation. So every once in a while, things go strange, and I apologize for the difficulties at the beginning. So I'll get a new recording out for you on that content over the next few days. Next question is, does CO2 analysis include any aluminum or only terracotta? We have an EPD. It's on the Argeton website, and I'll put it on ours. It includes the terracotta and Argeton's aluminum system. I don't think I've seen EPDs for aluminum or stainless steel or galvanized subsystems because they're all unique, but maybe that's coming in the future. But if you're curious about comparing the greenhouse gas and carbon aspects of the terracotta and its aluminum subsystem, this is included in our EPD. And so those numbers I shared with you to the best of my ability, they're apples to apples between the competitors and ourselves. I was really pleasantly surprised. I was really happy to see that difference. Okay, is cutting terracotta to standard lengths more costly? Well, no. So you order the length that you require. So I was painting the picture how the tile comes along a conveyor belt and is cut to the length of the panel. So the panels are 1.5 maximum. And if you wanted 101 or 891, you can order those panels down to that millimeter, and it has no impact on the cost. I specifically, you want to comment on that? Okay,
No, you're right.
So this is a very good question. One moment, I gotta do this. Speaking on Ontario line, we have a situation where the terracotta facade consists of a mixture of glazed terracotta planks and some baguettes as well. The question is how durable the terracotta planks baguette secondary steel framing against salt spray from the highway. Second question, our facade is slanted. Do you think there is a concern regarding the way we install the system on an angle? So there's nothing, an impact of the terracotta except maybe cleanliness. And therefore, if it's glazed, as we've been talking about with natural tile with a clear glaze, then that's meaning rain and so forth is going to wash things off. The joints aren't going to collect any dirt the way a panel of any other type that's going to have a caulking joint. Aluminum, I mean, it doesn't consist of a mixture of glazed terracotta planks and some baguettes. So there's no difference between the planks and the baguettes. And then your question about steel framing, there is no steel framing. So the clips and the bars from Argeton are aluminum, and in the horizontal aspect they're aluminum, in the vertical part they're aluminum. So therefore it would be about making sure the attachments behind them are in non-corrosive materials like aluminum or stainless steel. So there's nothing in the Argeton system that can corrode over time. So if there's been a miscommunication about the material of the subsystem, I apologize. Do you have any comments on that, Chris?
No, you're correct. All the fasteners, so all the connecting fasteners are stainless steel. So yeah, it's a high grade aluminum, structural grade aluminum, and stainless steel fixings or fasteners, and clay. So it really three types of materials there.
So standard lengths and sizes. So I realized that I kind of didn't do a 250, 300, 350, 400, so forth, chart on what our heights are. Chris, can you just expound on what the heights of the panels are? And then, it's the same message about the length that I said a few minutes ago.
Right, absolutely. Yes. The smallest tile you can get is right around 4 to 6 inches. Okay, and that height depends on the length desired as well. So there's a height to length aspect. As you can imagine, you can't extrude, or if you did extrude a piece of spaghetti, it would look like a piece of spaghetti, right? So the the idea is to maintain some dimensional stability. So typically we would go to 6 inches by about 3 feet, and then 8 by 4, all the way up to, again, these are inches, up to 20 inches or 500 millimeters by 1.5 meters. So 20 inch by 60 foot. That's the factory's limitations, okay, for full automation.
Cool. And then do you need to self-report? So I'll be putting out certificates after this, maybe on the weekend or early next week. And then in Ontario, yes, you self-report for hour and a half of structured points. And I'm not sure what the roles, the process are for other places, but in Ontario, that's how it works. And the reason why it's structured is because of the thing we're doing right now of being interactive. How does this product integrate with other products such as brick and masonry? I like aesthetically, you can do all sorts of interesting creative things. And I like to think about it as complementary. You've got that old fashioned look of brick, but you have this modern look of maybe baguettes or tile, and the two go together very well. Now, how you detail it out is going to be different. And I think that's a per project question. You could design brick with lintels and brick ties, and then and have it attached to a steel stud system, and then next to it have a brick system. We also have a brick rain screen system called Corium, and the picture on the job site, picture in the window right there is Corium with baguettes. So you might want to talk about that. I think fundamentally your question is a detailing question, which we'd be happy to entertain at your will. Can you do returns or soffits that are not 90 degrees? Yes. Now the way you would do that is simply the subsystem behind it. So the attachment systems for the tile would be the same, but we would design out a subsystem, and that's not hard. That could be at different degrees. So that's how we do that. But by the way, we could do that with any cladding. In Europe, there are terracotta flooring tiles as well, which have excellent life cycle and resist chemicals and other cleaning solutions. This is true. I noticed the current image panels colors vary. Is it possible to have a perfectly monotone wall? Do the colors vary with different runs? Well, you could be looking at an optical illusion, because the part that's on these walls are the baguettes, and then the other parts are brick. Chris, you want to mention about any kind of shading difference between different runs?
Yeah, I mean the colors, especially if you produce a standard color, right? The recipe's made, thousands of times a year, and that color is generally very similar. In fact, we could send you a sample of from one of our sample boxes that's probably 20 years old. Take out a piece of natural red terracotta and take out a brand new piece and they are virtually identical. That's identical in surface and identical in body. So yes, there's several colors that can be replicated, and there is very, very little variance within a production run. Now, if we're doing a building, we generally would do the entire building in the same production run, or you would break it at a corner. Because if you did, there could be variations in the same color slightly, right? So there is some slightly that you would see once it's installed on a wall.
Do you iron spot brick as well? Our Corium system has similar finishes as iron spot brick, but do we do something in the with all those finishes?
Yeah, in fact, we're designing a project right now for a school in Brooklyn, New York. It has a very unique spot finish on it, and it's yeah, iron spot's not a problem. In fact, we would use our Inspirio process to create that, and the architect 100% controls the pattern application. So we're literally going through a sampling process with them to understand what they want. So yeah, you tell us how you want the iron spots to be applied, and we will create the samples for you.
Wow, see, don't know everything. Thank you very much. That's really cool. I can't wait to see it. Have to jump. Thanks, guys. Give us more design choices for sure. Thanks. I like that. Of course. And there's a thank you. And I believe that's the end of the questions. Thank you for hanging in there during the bumps at the beginning. I'll get the presentation on my website right away. I will get out the learning certificates, and I'll probably re-record the webinar for your peers, which, by the way, they can review it online, tell me they did so, and I will issue learning certificates. A couple other places to find out what's going on. So I do, if you don't already know, a lot of posts, oftentimes about very important, detailed, and technical topics. I also do some fun there. I do a lot of e-blasts and so forth about technical topics again and events coming. Chris is very active on social as well, and his company holds webinars on all sorts of topics and systems. So I invite you to find us there, and there you go. So it's been really good, and the attendance has been fantastic. We're very much appreciative of the responsibility and confidence you put in us. And thank you, and you have a happy Friday. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.